What are we working on today, Mandy?
Today it will be the rubric on so-called the lesson plan, the final project.
So
It's a discussion board. And it's to create the rubric for the lesson plan.
okay, in that case, I'm gonna update it from drafting to just homework. How does that sound?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, you're all signed in. All right, let's begin.
Okay. I'll share the discussion board prompt. You see it?
Yes, I can see it. Okay, so that's the whole thing, right?
The part number 3 is just to create the rubric is for the language and the content objective and the language objective of the lesson plan. This is a so-called example. For the number 3, there's a little chart for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Scroll back up to the top so I can start reading it from the beginning. Whenever you assess your students, whether utilizing formal, informal, authentic, or other assessment approaches, it is important to utilize a rubric. Rubrics help you to standardize your assessment of your students and allow you to offer them helpful, clear feedback. Rubrics are composed of 3 basic parts. It is simplest form. The rubric includes characteristics to be graded, rows, the skills, knowledge, and or behavior learning objectives to be demonstrated. Levels of mastery, scale, columns. Labels used to describe the levels of mastery should be tactful and clear. Commonly used labels include not meeting, approaching, meeting, exceeding, exemplary, provision, marginal, unacceptable, advanced, intermediate, high, intermediate, lowest. Okay. And 3, a description of each characteristic at each level of mastery. Scale cells adapted from the assessment and curriculum support center at the University of Hawaii. Scroll down, please. Include a rubric with your final project. So in this unit, you have an opportunity to practice creating a rubric. Use the draft lesson plan that you developed for the Unit 13 DB. Create a rubric that you would use when assessing your students' progress on both the content objectives and language objectives of that lesson. You might want to use a table such as the following. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty good example.
Yeah.
All right.
For 2 objectives and then 2 language, but I also called it the all 4 of the writing, reading, those 4. So I made 4 language objectives for mine.
Okay, make sure that you briefly describe each characteristic at each level of mastery scale. That is, what would a student do that would lead you to rate them as meeting one of the language objectives? For example, rubric you create will be graded, but you will post it to DB Unit 14 and get feedback from your peers and your instructor, which may be helpful as you create your lesson plan for your final project. You must post your practice rubric as an attachment to DB Unit 14 no later than 11:59 p.m. Central Time. Okay, yada, yada, yada. Respond to at least 2 of your colleagues' posts. Right. Your replies should include at least one aspect that you think your colleague did well, and at least one piece of constructive criticism. Reading through all responses and replies is suggested. Okay, is that the end?
Yeah. And then I'll share mine.
Okay. Is that all of it, or?
Yeah, there's some more. It's, let me refresh the page. This for the first objective, the content versus content objective. Here we go. The first 2 for the content. The first 2 for the content.
Let's see,
And
content objective 1. The different habitats in which animals live. Desert, forest, and water. Okay. And then, okay, you've got novice, intermediate, high, and advanced. Is it supposed to be labeled like that? Novice, intermediate, high, and advanced? Because it looks like, it sounds like those are English levels, and not grade levels. Because I think the grade levels are supposed to be like, for example, does not meet expectations, the expectations exceeded expectations. You know what I mean?
So oh, okay. So the subtopic, the topic for the should be the so-called meet or no meet the expectation, that kind. Yes, for the second grade, and they were so-called level 2 in the beginning. Yeah, the beginner learning of English. So it should be the meeting, not meet.
Sure you're supposed to do it like this? Like, for example, can we go back to the example rubric that your professor provided?
Yeah.
Let's have a look at that.
Yeah. Just wait. Show this tab. You see? You.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about right here. You see, it says not meeting, approaching, meeting, and then exceeding.
Okay.
Are you supposed to do it like this, or are you supposed to do it the way that you did it on your rubric?
That so-called the one I created.
Yes. Whenever there was been a rubric, it's never been measured by the level of a student's English level. That's never been the scale. A rubric is always a scale of what a student needs to do to get an A, and then what they need to do, what qualifies for grades below an A. And that's measured by labels like not meeting, approaching, meeting, exceeding, etc., etc. That's what a rubric is.
Okay.
So that's why
Yeah.
I have a feeling that maybe you labeled the columns incorrectly. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was because when the professor put those other ones, I thought I could have chose those to use for my lesson plan too. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's examples of, yeah.
Well, let me see. Levels of mastery scale columns. Labels used to describe the levels of mastery should be textful and commonly used in this art.
Yeah, I could use the
I
meeting or not
see.
meeting, but yeah, that's that's why I have that one.
I see.
But if that
Okay,
other
you know
one
what?
makes more sense, I can change it.
Yeah, you know what? No.
Because this
I didn't notice this.
this rubric is not the final one. I can still change it.
With choices of labeling. That's why I went with the labeling type that I have experience with. I only have experience with one kind of labeling, but it looks here like your professor is providing you with options.
Yeah.
So that's clear now.
Yeah.
Okay,
so like if that one don't make sense for my lesson plan, I can change it to the not meeting approaching. And let's see if those are match. What I have there match with those labels.
based on what your professor said right here, I don't see why it wouldn't make any sense. Because you are following his example. Okay, let's go back to the rubric that you're creating.
Okay.
And we'll continue.
Okay, there you go.
All right, let's see. So novice level, the child is unable to name or pronounce the different habitats. Okay. Intermediate, the child is able to name or pronounce one or two different habitats with some trouble pronouncing. Okay. Intermediate high, child is able to effectively name all of the habitats, but struggles somewhat with pronunciation for one or two of them. Do me a favor, right click the word habitats.
I think it's telling you to remove the comma.
Okay, well, let's do it. Let's remove the comma.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Advanced. The child is easily able to name and pronounce the habitats without any difficulty. All right. Scroll down, please, so I can see objective 2. Identify the different animals that live in each habitat by their pictures. Okay. Child is unable to name any of the animals that live in any one special habitat. Let's see. Child is unable to name any of the animals that live in Okay, let's change the way that you type this out. So let's do this. The child is unable to name any of the animals that live in the habitats. Make habitat plural.
Mhm.
Put an S at the end. And then go ahead and delete everything that you had after that.
Okay.
Child is unable to name any of the animals that live in the habitats. Do you live next to a train?
Right now I am near a train. That's why. The train, the red line.
Oh, but your house is not there, right?
My house is by the highway.
That's why you hear the trains.
Yeah, last time when I was on that Thursday, I was the there was traffic on the highway. Those sounds were from the wind from outside. The window was open.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
The child is able to place some of the animals in their correct habitat, but still get some of them wrong. Okay, let's see. The child is able to place some of the animals. Delete
Mhm.
the words of the.
Okay.
Child is able to place some animals in the correct habitat. Make habitat plural.
Okay.
But delete the word still.
Okay.
Remove the S at the end of gets.
Okay.
But get some, and then delete
Next. Delete what?
of them.
Okay.
Right click get and see why that red line is there.
It wants the S back.
But gets some wrong. Okay, yeah, gets. That's correct.
Get. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Child is able to place some animals in their correct habitats, but gets some wrong. Okay, how does that sound?
Yeah.
Right. Excel. Child can identify most of the animals and the habitats that they belong in. Child can identify most of the animals and the habitats. Delete the word the in front of habitats. And habitats that they belong in. Delete the word that after habitats.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the child can identify most of the animals and habitats they belong in. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds better.
Okay. Child is able to easily identify the different animals and their habitats without any difficulty. Let's see. Child is able to easily identify the different animals. Delete the word different.
Mhm. Mm.
Child is able to easily identify the animals and their habitats without any difficulty. Delete the word any. Child is able to easily identify the animals and their habitats without difficulty. How does that sound?
Mm.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, down to language objective number 1, reading. The child struggles to read. Very simple words. Let's delete the word very.
Okay.
Okay, the child struggles to read simple words. Excel, the child can read simple words, but has problems with more complex words. Child can read simple words, but has problems with more complex words. Okay, that sounds good. That doesn't need to change. The child is proficient in reading simple and complex words, but struggles with new or unknown words. Okay, that's good. The child is able to read proficiently at their grade level and meets the expectations of the lesson. That's good too.
Okay.
All right. It's a very, very good row. Let's go down to language objective number 2, writing.
Mhm. Okay, right here.
The child struggles with writing comprehensible sentences. Uses incorrect grammar, tenses, and parts of speech. Okay, the child struggles with writing. Replace comprehensible
Mhm.
with comprehensive.
Sieve. So,
Yes.
read. No?
Child struggles with writing comprehensive sentences. Is incorrect grammar. Right-click uses. Yeah, let's go with that.
Okay.
And uses. And uses incorrect grammar, tenses, and parts of speech. Okay. The child struggles to write sentences that flow naturally, but is able to use grammar correctly. Right-click correctly to see why there's a red line.
Let's remove the comma.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
Child struggles to write sentences that flow naturally, but is able to use grammar correctly. You know what?
Yes.
Put the comma back. Put the comma back there after correctly.
Okay.
Delete the word and. Occasionally turn uses into using. occasionally using tense and parts of speech correctly. Occasionally using tenses. Make tense plural. Okay. The child struggles to write sentences that flow naturally, but is able to use grammar correctly, occasionally using tenses and parts of speech correctly. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Child often uses correct spelling, sentence structure, tenses, and parts of speech, but sometimes struggles with unknown and new words. Okay, the child often uses correct spelling. Okay, where it says uses correct spelling, let's replace that with spells correctly.
You should delete what? This one, right?
Where it says uses correct spelling, replace that with spells correctly.
Spells correctly.
Delete uses.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the child often spells correctly. Child often spells correctly. Correctly.
Yes.
Type uses correct.
Uses. Yes.
After correct,
Uh-huh.
where it says sentence structure, you should say uses correct sentence structures. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah. And uses correct sentence structure, tenses. Okay, yeah, let's do that. It uses correct sentence structure, tenses, and parts of speech, but sometimes struggles with unknown and new words. Okay. The child exemplifies advanced usage of grammar, tense, parts of speech, and sentence structure. Okay, that's good too.
Okay.
All right, let's go to the next row. Language objective number 3, speaking. The child is unable to pronounce most words and speaks in broken English. Right-click the word in, and let's find out why there's a red line.
There's a remove.
Let's remove it.
Okay.
Okay. Child is able to pronounce some words, but speaks in broken English. Delete the N
For,
in Excel.
okay.
So, yeah, that one. Just to keep it consistent. All right, Excel. The child is able to pronounce most words and has strong proficiency in spoken English. Okay, that's good. And the last cell in this row, the child exhibits strong fluency in spoken English and in the pronunciation of new words. That's good too. Okay, next row, language objective number 4, listening. Child has difficulty following specific directions or understanding what is being asked. This sounds good. Child has some difficulty in understanding directions, but is able to follow simple instructions. Do me a favor, right-click directions, and let's find out why there's a red line.
Remove the comma.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay.
Right-click the word in. Okay, get rid of it. Child has some difficulty understanding directions, but is able to follow simple instructions. Okay, that sounds good. Let's see, next one. Child has a little difficulty replace a little with some.
For this one too? Okay.
Yeah, the child has some difficulty. Child has some difficulty following specific instructions, but follows and understands simple instructions. Delete the words follows and.
Follows and okay.
Child has some difficulty following specific instructions, but understands simple instructions. Understands simple instructions. Child has some difficulty following specific instructions, but understands simple. To replace the last word instructions with direction.
Okay.
Okay, the child has some difficulty following specific instructions, but understands simple directions. How does that sound?
Yeah, good.
Okay, and last one in the row. Child shows a strong understanding of complex instructions and is able to follow along. Child shows a strong understanding of complex instructions and is able to follow along. This is great.
I think that's, yeah, that's the end of it. So on just needed to do one.
Is that all?
Yeah.
It broke up there.
Oh, it's only on 5.
Mandy, your audio is starting to break up really bad. I need to type